My name is Mondi Lewis. I am the Press Secretary to the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Honourable Philip J. Pierre, and I will be your announcer for this morning's ceremony. Please help me welcome the Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Mr. Timothy N. J. Antoine. Governor Antoine. The incoming chairman of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank's Monetary Council, Honourable Philip J. Pierre, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance of St. Lucia. The outgoing chairman of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank Monetary Council, Honourable Joseph E. Farrell, Premier and Minister for Finance of Montserrat. the Premier and Minister for Finance of Anguilla, Honourable Dr. Ellis Lorenzo Webster. The Prime Minister and Minister for Finance of Antigua and Barbuda, Honourable Gaston Brown. The Prime Minister and Minister for Finance of Grenada, Honourable Dickon Mitchell. The Minister for Finance of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Honourable Camilo Gonzalez. Please help me welcome His Excellency, Acting Governor General of St. Lucia and his wife, Mr. and Mrs. Cyril Charles. Please stand at attention for the national anthems of the member states. I would now like to invite Father Amal Raj of the Sacred Heart Church from Marsha to give us the invocation.
Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 8. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you to protect you. It is the Lord who speaks. God, our loving Father, thank you for everything what you are for us. You have called us, formed us, and gave us a mission to do it with love and care. Thank you, Lord, for gathering us together this morning as our Honourable Prime Minister assumes the chairmanship of the Board of Governors for the Eastern Caribbean Currency Monetary Council. Fill him with your Holy Spirit to continue to grow in wisdom and knowledge, to do everything what he can, especially at this time of financial crisis all over the world. Bless all those who are gathered here to come in assistance in every way possible, to give him a helping hand, to do everything in a successful way for the development of all our islands. Keep us all united as we are today to move ahead for your glory and for the good of all people. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Please be seated. I would now like to welcome the Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Mr. Timothy N. J. Antoine, to deliver opening remarks. Mr. Antoine.
Thank you very much. Ms. Monday Lewis, our Master of Ceremonies. Your Excellency, Mr. Cyril Errol M. Charles, Acting Governor General, and Mrs. Charles, Honourable Joseph Easton Farrell, Premier and Minister for Finance for Montserrat and Outgoing Chairman of the Monetary Council, Honourable Philip J. Pierre, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance for St. Lucia and incoming Chairman of the Monetary Council, other members of the Monetary Council, Ministers of Government, Members of Parliament, Dr. Diticus Jules, Director General of the OECS Commission, Dr. Jean Leon, President of the Caribbean Development Bank, members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, Dr. Valda Henry, Deputy Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Ms. Tracy Polias, Chief Director Policy, Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, board members and advisors, specially invited guests, members of the media, citizens, residents, and friends of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, greetings and good morning. Good morning. Thank you. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome each of you to the handing over ceremony that marks the change in chairmanship of the Monetary Council. Today, the chairmanship passes from the council member from Montserrat to the council member for St. Lucia. I seize this opportunity to welcome our newest council member, the Honourable Deacon Mitchell, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance for Grenada. Prime Minister, I extend my very best wishes to you for a highly successful tenure. I place on record our thanks to Minister Boeing, the immediate past council member for Grenada, for his service to our council over the last 2 years. I wish to now thank our outgoing chairman for his excellent stewardship, Premier Farrell, in a difficult year. During his tenure, Council made several key decisions that supported monetary and financial stability and continued our very engaging policy sessions. Article 7.2 of the ECCB agreement states, and I quote, "The Council shall meet not less than twice each year to receive from the Governor the Bank's report on monetary and credit conditions and to provide directives and guidelines on matters of monetary and credit policy to the Bank or and for such other purposes as are prescribed under this agreement," end of quote. Today, I confirm to all of you that the EC dollar remains strong with a current backing of 92%. Indeed, 2 weeks ago, we celebrated our 46th anniversary of stability. That is, it was in 1976 that the framers and founders made that important decision to peg our EC dollar to the US dollar. 1 US, 2.7. 46 years of stability, even in this pandemic, and even with hurricanes and volcanoes, and for inflation, your EC dollar, our EC dollar, remains strong. But here's the thing, the shocks keep coming. The Monetary Council convenes at a time of unprecedented challenge and complexity. During the IMF World Bank meetings in April of this year, the managing director of the fund described these times, and I quote, as the most complex policy environment ever. Few policymakers would argue with that characterization. And in cricketing terms, we might describe it as a very sticky wicket. First, there was the COVID-19 shock, then the surge in inflation shock on account of supply chain disruptions, which are now being exacerbated by the ongoing war in Ukraine, all resulting in commodity price increases. And the painful outcomes, high and stubborn inflation and a slowing global economy. And lest we forget, there is the ever-present existential threat of climate change. What a time, what a world. The shocks keep coming. For the first time in the post-World War II era, the global economy is grappling with both record inflation and record high debt in both the public and private sectors. This situation poses the several risks to the global economy, including high and persistent inflation, if wage price spirals develop, debt distress, and a possible recession as central banks in advanced economies raise interest rates in an attempt to curb inflation. On the broader geopolitical front, there is the clear and present danger of fragmentation as countries seek to protect themselves from the supply chain breakdowns experienced since the pandemic. At this moment, the outcome for the global economy is far from certain, but the immediate outlook is not good, and the implications for our currency union are grave. For starters, our working assumption is that the current inflation could last for at least another 12 months, perhaps even longer. Some of that has to do with the war in Ukraine, and at this point we do not know when that war will end. Consequently, we must or ought to govern our affairs accordingly. With the reopening of our economies and the pickup in tourism, we currently project that the ECCU will grow this year by 6% and next year by 5%. Our region is also dealing with the Liat shock as a consequence of the greatly diminished capacity of Liat occasioned by the pandemic, albeit with significant pre-existing conditions. When we consider that at least 20% and up to 1/3 of all arrivals in our region come from our member countries, intra-Caribbean travel, we begin to comprehend the magnitude of the Liat shock on regional air connectivity. Setting aside for a moment the prohibitive cost of travel and the onerous schedule where service even exists, it is an affront to our Caribbean civilization and an assault on our regional integration movement that many Caribbean citizens now find themselves requiring a US visa to travel within the Caribbean. I know this vexing issue is occupying the minds of our heads of government, and I will say no more at this time as we look towards a resolution. And some of the players who will be involved are very much in this room this morning. I will say that I took my first Liat flight yesterday to get from Antigua to St. Lucia. And we got here safely and on time. Hope springs eternal. A call for collective actions, because where risks abound, opportunities also abound. Ladies and gentlemen, the pressure on all sectors and all social partners are real and mounting. Our current situation demands a coming together at all levels: households, communities, countries, nationally, regionally, and internationally. We've seen some things we've never seen in terms of inflation, for example. We have now to come together. Now is the time for our social partners, governments, labor unions, business, civil society, including our youth and our churches, to engage in meaningful dialogue about shared sacrifices to weather the current inflation storm. At this time, unilateral demands by partners, be they businesses or labor unions, are unhelpful and will simply make a bad situation worse. For example, the price of fuel at the pump in the ECCU ranges from $15 to $20 per gallon, with varying government subsidies to help manage the current price. In other words, it would be even higher were it not for these government interventions. As government take additional steps within their limited means to cushion the effect of inflation on our vulnerable households and businesses, now is also not the time for price gouging by unscrupulous operators. Not the time. This is a moment for patriotism and shared sacrifice. Please. Even as we address the pressing matter of high food and energy costs, we must also seize and pursue opportunities for building resilience and transforming our region. Now, therefore, is the time to accelerate our renewable energy transition, digital transformation, and our food and nutrition security. Indeed, we must support and applaud persons like Kitlin Carew, CEO of Helen's Daughters, as we encourage women and youth in agriculture. Where is Ms. Carew? There you are. There you are. Let's applaud her for her efforts. Please, please. Ms. Carew is my special guest today. She blew us away last year when she presented at our Growth and Resilience Dialogue. And Kitlin, if I may call you that, 2 years ago you said something that I will never forget. Teach a woman to farm and feed a country for eternity. I love that. Boy, do we need food right now. Accessible, affordable, healthy food. So we bless and encourage your efforts as you continue on that journey. And Kitlin, Ms. Carew, represents many youth in our region. And this is a moment when we can make a legacy out of this crisis, this pandemic, in food and nutrition security. We have to support people like Ms. Carew. We have to support her. Now is therefore the time for our member countries to make full use of the Eastern Caribbean Partial Guarantee Fund, which was launched in October 2020, to support small entrepreneurs in the ECCU. The fund provides working capital, startup capital, and classic guarantees for small businesses, including creatives, through participating banks and credit unions and development banks. The current size of this fund is $30 million. Now is the time to launch the Credit Bureau to help more people get access to credit and other financial services, thereby improving the distribution of long-standing excess liquidity in our financial system, while also strengthening credit risk management. As we press forward, I make a special appeal to our member countries for urgent enactment of pending legislation, as this, frankly, is our single biggest strategic risk. The pace of our transformation is in our hands, because I believe we must do for ourselves what we can do for ourselves. And we must simply give ourselves a fighting chance to survive and thrive in a global economy that often treats our small countries as invisible, disposable, and of no consequence. I conclude. Ladies and gentlemen, we must navigate this period with a sense of imagination, determination, and yes, collective action. Our ultimate goal, transformation. Now is the time for forward-looking and leaning governments, citizens, and institutions. I hail our council members for your proactive actions which you have taken throughout this period to protect lives and secure livelihoods, and for your demonstrated regional solidarity. Indeed, may I say, this remains an indispensable and inspiring feature of our collaboration in this difficult season. I conclude with my often repeated declaration. It's a mantra or anthem of sorts. As a region, we cannot change our history, and we cannot change our geography, but collectively, we can and must elevate our development trajectory through innovation and collective action. So let us press forward, secure in the knowledge that we can do, quote unquote, all things through Christ who strengthens us, Philippians 4:13. I thank you. And now I have the distinct honor to invite to the podium our outgoing chairman, the Honourable Joseph Easton Farrell, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance for Montserrat.
Good morning. Your Excellency and Mrs. Charles, Honourable Philip J. Pierre, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Youth Economy for St. Lucia, and incoming Chair of the Monetary Council, colleague members of the Monetary Council, Mr. Anthony J. Antoine, Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Dr. Valder F. Henry, Deputy Governor, ECCB, Ms. D. Tracy Spolius, Chief Director, Policy, Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, board members and advisors, management and staff of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, ministers of media, sisters and brothers of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, good morning. I bring you greetings from the people of Montserrat and the people of St. Lucia and the wider Currency Union. Prime Minister J. Pierre, thank you for your generous reception and gracious hospitality. I take this opportunity to congratulate you on your first anniversary as Prime Minister of St. Lucia and wish you a successful tradition. I extend a warm welcome to the Honourable Dixon Mitchell, our new council member, and also extend best wishes to you, sir, for a very successful and fruitful tenure. When I took up the mantle of leadership of the Monetary Council 1 year ago, there were glimmers of hope, glimmers of optimism. A vaccination program were being rolled out across the region. And the International Monetary Fund latest projection was a global growth on the promising 4.4%. 1 year on, vaccination rates have fallen short of expectations. Furthermore, the war in Ukraine has complicated the policy environment and dimmed economic prospects. Today, as I pass on the baton of chairmanship to the Monetary Council to Prime Minister Pierre, I'm very cognizant, sir, that our journey is not a sprint, but rather a marathon. I take a few moments to share with you the success that we have made. When I say we have made together, under my chairmanship of the Monetary Council 2021-2022. In the past year, we began our climb out of the deep hole that the pandemic created in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union economy, with a contraction of 17% in 2020. In 2021, we recorded a growth rate of 5.8%, and earlier this year projected further strengthening of growth in 2022 to 6.7% prior to the war in Ukraine. Against the backdrop of the ongoing pandemic and the unfolding fallout of the war in Ukraine, we press ahead with our policy agenda to chart a path towards recovery, while taking steps to enhance resilience and lay the foundation for socio-economic transformation. I now present brief updates on the work program I outlined when I assumed the chairmanship of this August body. The EC dollar is a critical pillar of macroeconomic stability, and confidence in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union remains stable and strong. Despite volatility in financial markets, the ECU foreign reserve buffers and assurance policy for our currency union have withstood the economic shocks. The backing for the currency has remained in the 90% range, far exceeding 60% backing required by law. After 2 years, the bank oversaw a successful wind down of the loan repayment deferral program on 31st March 2022. At that time, only 5.4% of the loan portfolio in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union was under the program, compared with about 40% at the height of the program in September 2020. And for those of you who are not familiar with what is meant by the loan repayment, the bank took a decision, recognizing the difficulty that our clients were facing in the region and the hardship they were experiencing through the pandemic, to ask banks to give a moratorium to their lenders. That means freezing payments until such time they reach a stage where they're able to pay. Many of our clients took on the offer, and we are pleased today that, having spent that time, they are now in a position to start repaying their loan. The bank recognized the need to help our people. I wish to express my gratitude to the banking community for partaking with the central bank to bring much needed relief to our citizens, residents, and governments during 2 difficult years. Food and nutrition security. Food prices have risen sharply, and the availability of staples is under threat. Between July 2021 and May 2022, real food prices increased by 24%, according to the Food and Agricultural Organization in the United Nations. Vulnerable households are seriously affected and seriously at risk. To hold us accountable on our commitment to reduce the food import bill by 25% by 2025, as outlined in the Program of Action for Recovery, Resilience, and Transformation, the ECCB bi-national initiative aimed at boosting food and nutrition security. I note, for instance, St. Lucia launch of the second phase of its highly successful 7-crop program early this year. More needs to be done regionally, including logistics and shipping, to support the development of modern sustainability. Climate change, agriculture is in the ECCU. This is necessary for food and nutrition security, but also to help us tackle the epidemic of non-communicable diseases, which is rampant in our region. Recognizing our region's highly vulnerability to climate change, I made a commitment to support a green agenda during my tenure as Council Chair. I'm heartened by the Central Bank's Greening of the Campus initiative, which is already generating about 70% of the bank's electricity need from solar PV. With the imminent installation of battery storage, the bank is on track to achieve net zero. That is, meet 100% of its electricity needs from solar energy by the end of this year, a commendable achievement by the bank. More of us as governments will need to start doing that on our buildings, our offices, so that we can begin the process of greening our countries. I encourage others around the region to learn from this model. Governor Antoine, congratulations to the bank on winning the 2022 Central Banking Green Initiatives Award for this project. On a regional scale, the bank's vision for renewable energy transition advanced from the Regional Renewable Energy Infrastructure Fund facility, which is being developed in collaboration with the World Bank. This project is currently conducting a renewable energy barriers diagnostic and identifying a pipeline of projects. Montserrat has taken steps to increase the share of renewables in our energy mix, with the ambitious target of achieving 100% renewables by the year 2030. A major development towards this target is the country's 1 megawatt solar field project, which is now fed into our grid. And this was awarded the Best Distribution Generation Project at the 2022 Caribbean Renewable Energy Forum earlier this year. Innovation and digital transformation. High-speed, reliable internet connectivity is the backbone on which the digital economy is being built. Connectivity is critical for acquiring and developing the digital skills needed to thrive in this digital economy, particularly among our youths. Last October, to maximize the benefit of a newly commissioned fiber optic infrastructure, Montserrat launched Project High Speed. Project High Speed provides vouchers to defray the costs to households and businesses of accessing fiber optic branded broadband in their homes. Montserrat is probably the only country in these parts, the 100% fiber optic to homes and businesses. Dcash. Dcash is the first central bank digital currency to be issued in the Caribbean Currency Union. I am pleased to note that Dcash has now been rolled out in all member states. I look forward to seeing the next set of innovations in Dcash, including interoperability with our central bank digital currencies to facilitate payments with the diaspora and others beyond the borders of the currency union. Advocacy and issues impacting small states. Sisters and brothers, small states have been disproportionately buffered by the storms of recent years. As a poem written by Damien Barr at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic states, we are in the same storm, but not in the same boat. It is for this reason that the council members and the bank advocate strongly on behalf of the region and other small states for more support from the international community for our efforts to recover and rebuild resilience. To that end, after years of advocacy, the IMF has designed a new instrument to support resilience building. The IMF's Resilience and Sustainability Trust recognizes vulnerability, not mere per capita income, in granting access to this facility. The approval of the RST is a triumph for small island states, such as those in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. Prime Minister Pierre, as our incoming chair, there is no denying of the challenges that lay before us are many and daunting. Rest assured, though, that I and my esteemed colleagues on the Monetary Council stand ready to support you in advancing our policy agenda for the currency union. Sisters and brothers, we have come this far by faith, trusting in the Lord. Let us continue to lean on him to see us through. I thank you.
Thank you once again, Honourable Farrell, for your stewardship as Chairman of the ECCU Monetary Council. Through you, Governor, I would like to invite everyone on Sunday to a celebratory Mass for Prime Minister, Honourable Philip J. Pierre, who will be celebrating 25 years as the Member of Parliament for Castries East. The Mass will take place at the Sacred Heart Church in Marcia at 3 p.m., so see you all there. I would now like to invite Mr. Imran Simmons, professional panist, again from Marcia, to play a Caribbean medley. I suspect Gros was at play here with a little sabotage, but never underestimate the men from Castries East. I would now like to welcome Governor Antoine to the podium again.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies. And let's give him, for the sweet, sweet sound of pan, let's give the young man a round of applause. Can anybody guess where he comes from? Do you happen to know the MP for the area called Masha? For those who not in St. Lucia who are maybe listening online, our next speaker is the MP for Masha. Clearly, Masha got talent. And so it gives me great pleasure, delighted in fact, to welcome to the podium. Please stand to welcome our incoming chair, Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre of St. Lucia.
Thank you very much, Governor Antoine. Let me assure you, I was not the one who set the dates, so you could not be here for Carnival. Excellency, Acting Governor General Errol Charles and Mrs. Charles, fellow heads of government, Prime Minister Webster, Prime Minister Gaston Brown, Prime Minister Mitchell of Grenada, members of the St. Lucia Cabinet, members of the St. Lucia House of Assembly, permanent secretaries, Dr. Valda F. Henry, Deputy Governor, the ECCB, Ms. D. Tracy Polius, Chief Director Policy of the ECCB, board members and advisors, President of the Caribbean Development Bank, members of the Diplomatic Corps, fellow St. Lucians, brothers and sisters, good morning. Let me welcome you to St. Lucia and the hospitality of our people. I'm pleased to host this in-person ceremony, the first of its kind since 2018, and of course, my first non-virtual Monetary Council meeting since I became the Minister of Finance in July 2021. Today, I have the distinct honor of assuming the chair of the Monetary Council and to advance the strategic objectives of the ECCB as outlined in the strategic plan. I take the opportunity to thank Premier Farrell for his steady leadership of the Monetary Council in the midst of mounting challenges. Under Premier Farrell's stewardship, our award-winning and world-renowned central bank delivered on its mandate for monetary and financial stability in the ECCU. I also would like to extend a warm welcome to Honourable Dickon Mitchell, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance of Grenada, who is attending his first Monetary Council meeting. I join the outgoing chairman in commending Governor Antoine for his effective leadership and to the ECCB management and staff for the very important work they have been doing. It has not escaped my notice that the bank in 2021 has appointed its first female deputy governor, Dr. Valda F. Henry. Congratulations to Dr. Henry. The success of our sub-region depends heavily on the quality of its institutions. This is why we must jealously guard the integrity and the effectiveness of our institutions if we are to serve the common good of our people. The president of the International Economic Association and well-respected economist Danny Roderick puts it this way, and I quote, "The quality of institutions trumps everything else, that is geography and trade, in determining income levels worldwide. We must therefore remain committed to protecting the integrity and quality of the ECCB, which remains an effective and well-respected institution globally for over 40 years. We are living in extraordinary times, and arguably one of the most difficult times to govern. In July of last year, the COVID-19 plague had already claimed 140 lives in the ECCU. Today, we sadly report the related loss of over 1,000 people in the currency union. And we should observe half a minute silence for these who lost their lives. Thank you. We note with disappointment that the average percentage of the population vaccinated against COVID-19 across the ECCU member countries remains far below the required herd immunity of 70%. Only last month, the IMF reported that the ongoing pandemic has inflicted large output losses in the ECCU, leaving scars on the tourism and transportation sectors, education, labor force, and fiscal position. As if all of this were not enough to bear, we are now battling the economic fallout from the war in Ukraine, with food and energy prices on the rise. The World Bank's group Global Economic Prospects of June 2022 warns that for the global economy, and I quote, "The danger of stagflation, high inflation, and low growth is considerable today. The future of our small economies, therefore, remains challenging." If ever we needed to act collectively to address the common challenges and to position our region to better handle current and future shocks and to meet the legitimate needs and aspirations of our people, it is now. We must not miss the opportunity these challenges currently present. In this time of much needed collaboration, the bank and member countries must find alignment in the management of their respective roles. The bank must maintain its focus on managing monetary policy and ensuring stability, while member countries manage their fiscal policies responsibly to ensure sustainability. The banking sector in the ECCU has been witnessing significant changes, particularly in the last decade. These are likely to persist in the foreseeable future and would need careful attention by member states. For example, the rising competition between banks and non-bank financial institutions such as credit unions and payday loan services. Credit unions in our region have witnessed significant expansion in recent times. In St. Lucia, the credit union sector is open to greater collaboration with ECCB. This sector must not be adverse to regulation. However, they are mindful that credit unions are different to commercial banks, and the difference should be considered in any discussion on regulation, financial stability, and inclusiveness. In the months ahead, my chairmanship will be people-focused, and the Council's agenda will be consistent with both the Program for Action for Recovery, Resilience, and Transformation and the ECCB's strategic plan for 2022 to 2026. Our policy agenda will focus on 4 main areas. 1, tackling inflation. 2, resilient and inclusive growth. 3, financial stability and financial inclusion. And 4, payments modernization and digital transformation. All economies are experiencing record high inflation. As a consequence, our people, especially the most vulnerable, are hurting. I fully endorse the view of Governor Antoine that the current external shocks we are experiencing requires an all-of-society approach led by our governments. Within our limited fiscal spaces, governments of the sub-region are trying to cushion the effects of inflation on its people. And as a region, we must urgently and necessarily pursue alternative consumption, relying more on locally produced foods and less on expensive imported foods, some of which will remain in short supply if the war in Ukraine continues. My fellow council members, I remain committed in pursuing a regional growth target of 5% per annum. We'll continue working towards the realization of tourism by increasing its resilience and the resilience of the industry generally. A critical imperative for meeting this objective is addressing the vexing issue of regional transportation, particularly air transportation. It is too cumbersome and definitely too expensive to travel to neighboring islands. Also, at the top of our growth agenda will be the intensive promotion of food and nutrition security through trade practices, access to alternative markets, import substitution, and alternative consumption. In this regard, we'll accelerate efforts to reduce the ECCU food import bill of $1.6 billion in 2019 by 25% over the next 3 years. We will also strengthen and support small and medium enterprises to recover, survive, and thrive while enabling the establishment of new businesses, especially among our youth. And next week in Parliament, we'll be launching our youth economy in St. Lucia. On the aspect of energy, we'll encourage the attainment of renewable energy targets established on the national energy policies to boost energy security and reduce the negative impact of volatility of oil prices on our domestic economies. We need to enhance the enabling environment to scale up clean energy investments within the ECCU. We'll continue to demand climate justice, including the necessity for grants and concessionary finance to enhance climate resilience. As part of the program for action, the bank will intensify its work on the frameworks for stability and optimal regulation of the ECCU's financial system. This work includes consumer protection in the financial system. In this regard, I commit to bring to Parliament legislation that will enhance financial stability and financial inclusion. These include amendments to the Banking Act and the Credit Reporting Bill and regulations. I take this opportunity to urge all member countries to enact the outstanding Monetary Council approved legislation at the earliest opportunity. It is my aim that by the end of my tenure as chairman, most of our people will have had access to credit and other financial services, which should empower them to pursue their dreams, create employment, and help grow our economies. The bank will also advance its work on deposit insurance to protect depositors. Later today, the Monetary Council will consider a new payment system and services legislation. Some may ask, what is this for the people? My response, faster, cheaper, and safer payments, greater consumer protection, and a better climate for promoting innovation and financial inclusion. After all, payments are the lifeblood of every economy. Indeed, this initiative is part of our vision of developing a digital economy for the people of our region, especially our youth. Fellow council members, regional and international partners, public sector and private sector stakeholders, civil society and youth, I issue a clarion call to action for the transformation of our region. To realize the outcomes of the Council's people's-led agenda, we require commitment and political will, stakeholder participation, sustainable financing, and collective action. Today's challenge presents the opportunity for greater collaboration of effort at all levels. Let us not waste it and be brave. We can do better in serving the common good of our people. It is the reason why we are called to serve. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Prime Minister, and I can say for myself and the staff of OPM that we're looking forward to your year as Chairman of the ECCU, and we will also be having a launch of Prime Minister's Chairmanship in St. Lucia of the Caribbean Central Bank, Development Bank, sometime in August. So we're looking forward to the work, Prime Minister. Thank you. I would now like to call on Governor Antoine once again for the closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies. Prime Minister, there's a lot on your plate. But, you know, I'm pleased to hear that your staff have signed up. So Monday when we call, you've already committed to answer the call. Thank you very much. It's a tough time for our ministers or heads of government, but together we will get through this. All that's left for me to do really is to say thanks, and I'm going to do this in 2 or 3 sentences. First of all, I want to thank everyone who came today. Thank you for your presence this morning. I do want to say a word of thanks to our Master of Ceremonies, Ms. Lewis, for expertly managing us and handling us, taking us through. I especially want to thank, Prime Minister, your team who's coordinated to host these meetings. These are not easy times to host meetings with all of the protocols to be observed. But when we arrived yesterday, we saw your team in action. The healthcare, the police, the protocol, and everyone else along the way. And I just want to put our hands together for all of those efforts. They made us feel welcome, and I know they've gone out of their way to really host us. And I thank you, Prime Minister, for agreeing to do it and for your team rallying with you to do just that. I do want to thank all of the coordinating committee. I know they met over the Carnival weekend, for example, sacrifice, but this is the time for patriotism and shared sacrifice. They demonstrated that. I know on Monday they were meeting, Tuesday maybe as well, to go over the final details, and I want to thank them for that. I especially want to thank our team at ECCB, in particular our country manager, Mr. Everton Seeley, who's coordinating both this meeting and as well working with us on our country outreach next week. So let me say on next week, God willing, we will start our country outreach mission, where we will be meeting with stakeholders, starting with, of course, the head of state, the cabinet, leader of the opposition, social partners, and others. And we certainly look forward to seeing you, the media as well, over those next few days next week. I especially want to thank our manager on the ground, Ms. Acklin Blaise. I don't know if Acklin is in the room. There she is, in the black and white. But Acklin is a champion in her own right. And the council members will tell you, but you know, when you're trying to coordinate 8 countries with meetings, a lot of coordination is required. She has mastered that, and I just want to especially thank her for all of her efforts. We can't do those meetings without people like Acklin. So, all that's left for me to do is to tell you that there are refreshments outside. You will be directed. Please partake. Thank you for your presence and your prayers. God bless you all. Thank you.
Please stand for the exit of His Excellency and Mrs. Cyril Charles. Monetary Council members, please remain in the room, and everyone, please partake in the cocktail outside. Thanks for coming.